Hello guys and welcome to Custom Gamer. My name is Daz and this is the show where we talk about level design while playing cool maps. Today we're playing the new SOC map, which was released on the 27th of May 2014. This map had a fairly short development cycle. It was done in about 3 or 4 weeks. SOC said he was inspired by MFX's latest short release. If you remember, I did a video of it called Klein's Bottle. SOC said he really liked the skybox and kind of ambience in that map, so he wanted to try his hand at it, and this is the result: a crazy vertical void map with an amazing custom skybox which SOC created himself using the id metal texture set with a lot of custom variations and additional elements and some interesting new gameplay mechanics which we can talk about as we get into it. Now, some quick housekeeping before we begin. This map does require the Quoth mod, which you can find at quaddicted.com. It's also a link in the description below the video. Quoth is required to play this map. As you can tell, there's a lot of new enemies which are all Quoth based, and I think some of the entity work here requires Quoth as well, so do not try to play this map without it. I also highly recommend you get a custom Quake engine. Quake Spasm would be my recommendation. Again, there's a link in the description below the video for Quake Spasm. Really nice engine. The other thing I should mention is that the latest version of Quoth contains a batch file which you can drag and drop pack files onto in order to load mods which use Quoth, which makes loading this map a lot easier if you're that way inclined. So I recommend checking that out. Again, there's a link for Quoth in the description below the video. Let's go and have a look at this, shall we? It starts off in typical SOC fashion with the skill select room, which then loads the main map afterwards. And even in this skill select room, SOC is trying to teach you various mechanics for the map. So if you look around, you'll find some buttons you can push. And generally these buttons are kind of color coded. If they're red, then it's typically something in the map which will be activated, like doors, things like that, lifts. If the button is yellow, then it's a control button for one of the new mechanics in this map, which are the various light bridges around the place, which you can turn on and off by the use of these yellow buttons. And as you can see here in a moment, SOC is teaching us about light bridges before there's even any combat in the map. So in skill select, you have to activate one of these bridges in order to actually exit the skill select area. And then, just to reinforce the player teaching, he puts another light bridge right in front of you when you get into the main map itself, with hilarious results. I think putting a grunt on the bridge here is a fantastic piece of design, because not only does it get players to use the button again to turn off the light bridge, so now they know they can turn them on and off. They also know that if enemies are walking on the light bridge, they can drop them to their death. That's a really, really cool way of introing a new mechanic and showing all the possibilities with it. Now, talking about the map itself, of course, being a void map, it's extremely open-ended. There's lots of kind of different routes you can take, lots and lots of secrets and various things you can clamber all around the map. And lots of clambering is probably required to complete the map on hard skill. There's a lot of hidden item caches and even extra weapons which you won't find unless you really, really search around the level, which is absolutely fantastic, I should add. The really fantastic thing about void maps is that they allow so much exploration, because you're just hanging in thin air. So there's lots of opportunities to hide things all over the place, and SOC does an excellent job with that in this map. So he uses the base enemy set, which again, using the Quoth mod, there's a lot more variety here now. One thing that's really, really cool about this map is the use of the bobs, which, if you're not too familiar with Quoth, they're these little flying enemies you can see there. They fly around the map on paths, and if they spot you, they'll come and attack you with this kind of rapid-fire laser attack. And if there was ever a map to really use the bobs well, it's this one. They're never really thrown directly in the face. They're always kind of orbiting around the outsides of the map. When they see you, they can kind of come inside to wherever you are. It's a great way to kind of get around the terrible Quake AI for flying enemies, because they're always on the outside coming in, so they can generally always find you. And it just looks really, really cool, kind of sitting out on the ledge and seeing all these bobs flying by at different angles, and knowing that, you know, if you're not careful, you're going to have to deal with them. It's really, really nice. They give off this brilliant kind of ambient buzzing sound when they're close by as well, which is quite unnerving when you're sitting around on all these tiny ledges. Speaking of ledges, the progression in the map is entirely vertical, so you can see here there's a shaft going upwards which you have to grab the gold key and activate the lift to use, which will take you to the final arena. But that would be missing so much of the map to just kind of beeline it straight for the gold key. There's so much to explore here. And there's a kind of very quick route back from the bottom of the map to the top, which is kind of really required in a void map, because if you do fall down here you die, and that's fairly harsh, especially when there's lots of kind of small outcroppings and lots of different ways to get yourself killed in this map just by dropping off ledges and falling to your death. That kind of really has to influence the design of the entire map. So if you really wanted, you could probably complete this level in, I'd say, as little as 3-4 minutes. Obviously that's just beelining around it, hitting all the important steps, but I think that's really important for a void map, because if it takes, you know, half an hour to play and then you fall to your death in the final minute, that'd be so aggravating. But with the design of Metal Monstrosity, you can just kind of, if you die, it's not really too much of a big deal, you just have to start the map again, but you can get back to where you were very quickly. But I think having that danger of falling is really important. I've played a couple of void maps where if you fall you get teleported back onto a platform. I guess that kind of design works if the map is really long, but I think the compact nature of this map really serves to have a deadly void. I like it a lot. You can see here the kind of gold key door is kind of dominating that arena back there. So we know you have to find a gold key by now. And the gold key, it's not really an arena of sorts, but there's just a lot of enemies up high which kind of rain down grenades and lasers all over you. I like the fact you can always see the kind of radar dish up in the sky, the highest point in the map. You kind of know that you're going there. That's very cool. These sentinels are another new Quoth enemy. I'm not really too keen on them, they seem a little bit dull, but I guess it's nice to provide a bit of variety in the level where possible. There are 10 secrets in total. I think I find 6 or 7 of them in this playthrough. There's probably a couple I haven't even found yet, but I feel like I found a little bit more in my various tests of this map. I just love all the little outcroppings, they're absolutely everywhere. I swear I haven't found them all yet. Just not even secrets, just kind of little ledges which hold supplies on them. Even if it's just like a box of rockets or something like that, there's just so many of them all over the place. Trying to kill these bobs with the grenade launcher is a difficult task. I don't recommend it. I saw a couple of comments that maybe there's too many bobs in the map at times. I think it really depends on kind of which bobs you aggro at what point. If you manage to get around most of the map without aggroing any of them, and then you kind of aggro them all at the same time when you get to a certain point, perhaps it can be a bit much. But I really think it depends on just how you play, and if you take out any of the kind of orbiting bobs, or they see you. I really enjoy fighting them myself, so it was never really an issue for me. So one thing I will say is that it's really fun to kind of explore the kind of outlying elements of the map. Like you've got these rune pillars, kind of strange gizmos on them off in the distance, and it kind of looks like you should probably go and check out what's on them, and it turns out that's exactly the case. So this one in particular that I'm about to find is probably the most important one, as it contains the plasma gun, which is super important for the final arena in the map. This weapon turns the final arena from a very tough fight into a very manageable affair. It's still difficult, you still have to play smartly, but it makes it so much more manageable. especially on hard skill, was a lot more enemies to deal with. There's some nice repopulation of the lower levels as well as you go through. A couple more mobs appear here and there, lots of kind of marauding enforcers. It feels really, really natural as well. I like it a lot. Now this button here is probably perhaps the only slight worry I have about the map is that people may not find this button, which is kind of required to get to the top of the map here. It does feel kind of natural to jump across after killing the I can't even remember what those guys are called. I think they're called eddies. Those kind of tripod guys with the ogre on top. I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, I don't remember anyone in testing having a problem with that. But it just kind of niggles me that is something where if someone doesn't jump across, they're never going to find that button. But yeah, who knows? Let me know in the comments if you got stuck there. I think it'd be kind of interesting to see. So here's the final arena, and this one's really, really interesting for a couple of reasons. If you remember when I did the video of the final threat by Fan a couple of weeks ago, I was talking about the arena he did there where it's a time-based, so the enemies will keep on coming. You have to keep up with the flow of enemies, otherwise you're going to get overwhelmed and killed. This arena is something very, very different. You have 4 buttons on these pillars around the outside, and for each button you activate, you get a wave of enemies, so the pacing of the arena is entirely in the player's control here. The difficult part is just surviving the wave of enemies when you hit a button, but if you do survive it, you can take your time to rearm, resupply, using the finite resources around the arena, and then hit the next button when you're ready to continue. Which is pretty cool and fairly interesting mechanic. The other really cool mechanic here is of course the lightning. Now you can see where the lightning's going to hit on the floor because you've got these burnt patches everywhere, which is really, really nice. The lightning itself can hurt enemies as well. It's fairly difficult to get them to walk into it, but it's nice that it can work that way. Then of course you've got this large visibility blocker in the centre, which is great for actually dealing with a lot of these enemies. This is a fantastic arena design. I really, really like it. It went through a lot of iterations in testing. I know when I first tested it, the lightning was an afterthought. There wasn't enough of it. It didn't last long enough. It was too easy to dodge. Socks made it a really interesting component of the arena now. I think there's actually more lightning as you get onto later waves as well. Yeah, it's very cool. As you can see, the plasma gun just... I want to say this gun's fairly overpowered in Quake. I mean, maybe just this map exemplifies that, but... yeah, it's a really, really powerful gun. Combined with just the sheer amount of ammo you have for it by the end of the map if you don't use it. Really makes short work of this arena. I've been saving the Cross of Deflection power up for the final enemy here, the Gug, as this is where I normally die if I use the cross before now. Luckily this time it looks like I'm going to do it, so hooray! And then of course in sock fashion you can use that teleporter there to go back down to the bottom of the map and explore around some more, perhaps find some secrets, or just have a look around, see if you missed anything, or you can jump into the exit here. But all in all, this is a fantastic void map. I really, really like it. Really, really cool visuals, all the kind of runic brushwork with all the various little kind of runes everywhere, and all the glyphs and metal things off in the distance look fantastic. And the gameplay's really fun as well. So I definitely recommend you check this one out if you haven't already. I know I'm a bit late creating this video, so hopefully you've already played this and enjoyed it. Alright, more Custom Gamer coming soon.